Most people prune their rosemary once and accidentally kill it slowly. If your rosemary has gone tall, hollow in the middle, or just plain scraggly, you are not the problem. Your technique is. Rosemary has 2 ideal pruning windows, and I mean it when I say that missing both of them is one of the fastest ways to end up with a plant that looks like a complete mess. The first window is at the end of winter, somewhere in late February through early March, right before the plant pushes new growth for spring. This is, the best moment for the bigger structural work, bringing the height down, reshaping the whole thing, and clearing out anything dead. The second window opens in early autumn. Think September into the first weeks of October, before the cold sets in properly. This is when you handle the lighter stuff, tidying the shape, removing anything that got too leggy over summer, and reducing the risk of wind damage through the frost months ahead. The rule is not complicated. Avoid pruning in the middle of summer when the plant is working flat out, and never prune right before a forecast hard freeze. Time it right and rosemary bounces back fast. Time it wrong and you are looking at a slow, stubborn recovery that nobody wants to deal with. Before a single branch comes off the plant, there is a step that takes less than 2 minutes. And it will save you from making cuts you simply cannot undo. Every rosemary plant has a story, and I know that sounds a bit much, but it is true. That story is written right there in the branches. Before you start cutting, spend a moment actually looking at what is in front of you. Where has the plant been reaching? Where has it gone hollow? Has it been damaged by weather, by bad pruning, by someone who just went at it with no idea what they were doing, in ways that left certain sections weak or dead? The thing is, rosemary does not come back from old bare wood the way a lot of other plants do. If you cut back into a branch that has no leaves, no visible buds, no green whatsoever, that branch is done. That is it. So before you touch anything, identify where the living green growth is on every branch and make every cut land above a point where the plant still has something to push from. Skip this step and you are basically just guessing. And guessing with a pair of pruning shears is how you do permanent damage to a plant that was perfectly fine. With that picture in your head, the first real cuts you will make are the most dramatic and, the most immediately satisfying to actually see take effect. If your rosemary has gone tall and leggy, and you know the look, that one main stem just shooting straight up past everything else, the technique you need is the return cut. A return cut is not just trimming the tip of a branch. You trace the branch back toward the body of the plant until you find a healthy lateral shoot growing off to the side, and you make your cut just above that lateral. You are basically telling the plant to stop going up and start going sideways instead. Find the lateral, make your cut at a slight angle so rainwater runs off rather than sitting on the wound, and that is the cut done. That angle, by the way, is not just a nice little detail. A flat horizontal cut pools water and can open the door to rot, especially in damp autumns and winters. So, do not skip it. Work your way around the plant, bringing each tall branch back to a height that makes sense for your space. And the rule never changes. Every return cut must land above a visible green lateral. No green? Go back further until you find one. It is really that simple. Return cuts handle the outside of the plant, but the real damage tends to happen on the inside. And that is the part that most home gardeners just never, actually deal with. Thinning is the cut most people have never even heard of. And it is, the one that makes the biggest long-term difference to how your plant holds up. When rosemary goes unpruned for too long, it pushes all its energy to the very tips of the outermost branches, while the inside quietly dies off. What you end up with is basically a green shell wrapped around a hollow, brittle core that snaps if you so much as brush against it. Thinning fixes this by removing selected branches from inside the plant to let air and light back through. Start with anything completely dead and leafless. These cut out cleanly at the base. Then look for crossing branches. Two branches rubbing against each other as they grow, creating friction wounds in the bark. Remove the weaker one. After that, look for what I would call doubles. Two branches going in exactly the same direction, at the same angle, competing for the exact same light and space. One of them goes. The goal here is not to gut the inside of your plant. It is just to open it up enough that light actually reaches the shoots buried in there, so they get a real chance to develop. With the plant shaped and opened up, there is one last technique that will decide how dense and productive your rosemary actually becomes over the seasons ahead. Pinching, you might also hear it called topping, is how you tell your rosemary to branch outward, rather than just keep pushing straight up in one long line. When you remove the top section of a healthy green shoot, roughly the top third of the stem, no more than that, the plant responds by pushing out two or more lateral shoots from just below your cut. More lateral shoots, means more leaf coverage, more of that incredible aroma, and a visibly fuller, more compact plant. The key is to cut above a visible pair of buds or a small cluster of leaves. Those buds are your future branches. Keep the cut clean and angled slightly. You do not need to pinch every shoot on the plant, just focus on the areas that look thin, or the zones you most want to fill in. And do not go overboard. Rosemary needs its green canopy to keep making energy from sunlight. Taking more than 40 to 50% of the total canopy in one session puts real stress on the plant, and the recovery is just not fun to watch. Here is something most people never think about. Every time you pick rosemary for the kitchen, you are already pruning it, and you have probably been doing it wrong this whole time. The most common way people harvest is to pull or cut a stem from along the middle of a branch, stripping it off lengthwise. It gets the job done in the moment, but that habit is, quietly training your plant to hollow out over time. You are removing growth from the central axis of the stem and leaving the plant with nothing behind to branch from. The fix is simple. Harvest the same way you would pinch during pruning. Take the top of a shoot, cut from the tip downward by about a third, and leave the lower portion completely intact. Buds, leaves, the whole thing. You still get your rosemary for the kitchen. The plant gets a clear branching signal in return. Do this every single time you harvest, and your rosemary will stay noticeably fuller across the whole growing season without any extra pruning required on top of that. Once the work is done, you will have a real pile of rosemary cuttings at your feet. And every bit of it is worth keeping. The obvious move is the kitchen. Rosemary cut fresh from a good pruning session is at its best for fragrance and flavour. Great for cooking, for infusing into oils, or for making simple herbal teas. If you have got more than you can use before it dries out, bundle the stems and hang them somewhere with good airflow to dry, then store in a sealed jar. Or, and this one is underrated, strip the leaves, chop them roughly and freeze in small bags. They hold their flavour well for several months. But the most rewarding thing you can do, and I really mean this, is propagate. The healthy green tip cuttings from your pinching session are perfect for growing completely new rosemary plants. Strip the leaves from the bottom of each cutting. Scrape the base of the stem lightly to expose the green layer underneath, and push it into moist, well-draining soil. Keep it somewhere sheltered while roots establish. A few weeks later, you have got brand new rosemary plants completely free from what you would have otherwise just thrown on the compost.